Just a second. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm just gonna start the recording.
Someone's saying that they're having problems connecting. Hello?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We begin in the name of Allah, the one who is beautiful and he loves beauty. We start, okay, my phone is actually now recording the session. Who is having trouble joining? Mariam, are you able to unmute yourself? So can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, and is someone still having trouble joining the session?
Yes, someone called Sajida and someone
having
called
difficulty joining?
Hajra. Sajida and Hajra.
I don't know how to help her out now. If any of you could guide her, I'd be grateful. I don't want to waste everybody's time now. So I'll have to start the session.
I think Bismillah, and then they can maybe catch up with the recording.
Okay, Bismillah, we have most of our participants with us, so I'm just gonna start now. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. We start in the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. And today's session is also about the breath of the compassionate, which is called the Nafs ar-Rahma, the breath of the compassionate. And as you can see, we start our session with this hadith, which says, God is beautiful and he loves beauty. Inna Allahu Jameel wa yuhibbul Jamal. May we be all guided by truth. May we have beauty revealed to us, and may it result in the good. So today I want to talk about this saying over here, which says, everything and everyone are connected. Everything in the physical world originates in the spiritual world. Success depends upon the effective communication between the two realms. So today we have taken this quotation because the visual is blurred. I'm getting this feedback. Is it blurred for everybody? Is the visual blurred for everybody? Because
no, it's fine for me.
One particular person's internet is
Must be possibly is their specific connection.
Mariam, if you could just take over the chat for a while, then I can continue the talk. Mariam or Mariam, whoever can help me out here.
Yeah,
I'd
sure.
be so grateful. Okay, so we also discussed how in the Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna rahmatullahi qareebun min muhsinin. And muhsinin, Allah's mercy is near those who are beautiful, who do what is beautiful. And the word here is muhsinin, hasana, which is beauty. Okay, so today I want to talk about this book, Symbol and Archetype. It is a beautiful book by the author Martin Lings, and he emphasizes in his book that if we could understand the importance of symbology, we could actually understand the entire meaning of existence. And it's a tall order. It's a big claim to say that if we could understand the importance of symbols, then we could actually understand the meaning of our existence and our aim in life. On page number 4, Martin Ling writes about the primordial man. Over here, primordial man is the man he refers to before Adam ate of the apple, per se. So the man before he got distracted, he's referring to that man as primordial man. And he is saying that for the primordial man, everything inward or outward was transparent in experiencing. A symbol, he experienced its archetype. Now, let me explain what archetype is. If those who know may know, but archetype actually means something which is the source, which is the root. Archetype is the mold, the origin of something which comes out of it, right? So we understand archetype as something which is coming from the source. And what he's saying is that the primordial man would not see the symbol. The primordial man would always see the archetype, the originality behind what he could see in front. So to explain it better, I had drawn this image that if we could look at the tree, but looking at the tree, we would actually see beyond the tree. We would see that the image of the tree is just it's just an image, but the reality of the tree is something else. And for us, the reality or the source of anything is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so the primordial man would always see the source behind everything that was manifesting. And therefore, in the Quran also Allah says, everywhere you turn is the face of God. That means there's a facade, there's a face. So for you, you can see my face, right? But that's not just who I am. I am far more than just my face, because this face was something else when I was younger. This face was something else when I was a baby. And this face is not going to stay when I get older. It'll be something else. So something which keeps changing is not me. But what is within me, which is always same, is my reality. And therefore, everything has a reality which is unchanging. And that unchanging reality, one can say, is the archetype or the source. And one of the most profound things that I read in this book was that the eating of the fruit of the forbidden tree was, in a way, a distraction. And after that, man or Adam became distracted by, there was a distraction which took him away from seeing the reality, right? So the violation of the norm barred man access to his inward center. He got distracted. He was not centered anymore. He got distracted. And with distraction, he forgot now to see things as they were. He now started to see the facade, the outer manifestation, not the reality. And so for all of us, the aim in life is to go back to that way of doing life where we always see the reality and not the outer shadows, not the outer manifestations, not the outer images, but we would actually see the reality. And this is our striving. This is our goal. This is our need to understand our purpose in life, is to go back to seeing reality in everything which is so temporary in this mortal world. This is a deep philosophical discussion, and I hope something of it is making sense. Now, moving forward, today we are going to be looking at this symbol. And this is what we're going to be exploring, reading about it, and we're going to be looking at a few descriptions of this symbol from a few authors who've done work in it. Right now, the passage that I'm showing you is from the book Islamic Patterns by Professor Keith Critchlow. He says that the passive and dynamic aspects of the 4 elements, which are also related to the 4 humors, which is hot, cold, moist, and dry polarities of the archetype, is is expressed through this image, because you can see there are 2 squares and squares have 4 corners. This is a little difficult to understand, but I'm just gonna make it simpler for you. The 8-pointed star has also been related to the symbolism of the 8 bearers of this throne from the Quranic source. So in the Quran, there's an ayah where Allah is talking about the throne and it being held by 8 bearers. There are 8 bearers of the throne. So they say that this symbol also signifies those 8 points of the throne. Ibn Arabi also talks about it, and it's just gonna come right here. Over here, he quotes the ayat of the Quran. Just a second. Yes, over here. If you can follow my cursor, it says, upon that day, 8 shall carry above them the throne of your Lord. Surah number 69, ayah number 17. And then he said, today they are 4, meaning in this world, Allah said, upon that day they shall be 8. That means that 4 of the bearers of the throne may be visible in this world, and 4 of them are of the other world, the world of the unseen. So people who can tap into the unseen world here will be able to see all of the 8. But people who have not yet crossed that threshold can only see these 4. Now, what are these 8 bearers of the throne according to Ibn Arabi? Everything will not make sense to everybody. This is deep stuff, but this is relevant to the shape, so I'm just sharing. Maybe we'll go back to it. Maybe we'll take question and answer later on and make it more clear. Now, he says that what are these 8? They are life, knowledge, power, will, speech, hearing, sight, and the perfection of the tasted, smelt, and felt with the attribute connected to him. On the day of rising, all of the 8 will be visible to the eyes. 4 of them are manifest in this world: form, food, and the 2 ranks. In it is with Allah said, upon that day 8 shall carry above them the throne of your Lord. The Prophet ﷺ, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, today they are 4. This is an explanation of the throne as the kingdom. Now, there is an article on the astrology of Ibn Arabi online on the website Sufi Path of Love, in which they have shown the very same image as the form of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is in the Futuhat al-Makkiyah, the book by Ibn Arabi. I'm just giving you references. Easier stuff is just coming up. One of the images that you see in Ibn Arabi's work is also this. He talks about the 8 bearers of the throne. There are 4 of them are angels and 4 of them are prophets. Now, 4 when it's doubled becomes 8. So we're gonna look at the shape of octagon. We had discussed what an octagon is. It's this shape over here. It has 8 corners. And inside this flower, inside this star, when we join these inner points, if you can see the cursor, then it becomes an octagon. So octagon is inside the octagram. So we're discussing the octagon right now. In Islamic architecture, through the use of a piece of construction called a squinch, an octagonal structure provides the transition between the earthly cubic form and the heavenly form of the domed roof. Earthly forms are connected to squares, and heavenly ideas are connected to the sphere or the circle. The octagon is an important figure in the composition of traditional art, the number 8 representing a vital stage on man's spiritual journey and return to unity. This is signified in the 8th climb of Sufism, leading to paradise and the renewal of man having made his quest through the 7 heavens and regained paradise. When we were discussing in our Quran classes, actually we discussed these 7 heavens as the 7 chakras. It was just a opinion-based research discussion in which we were discussing how the 7 heavens may be signifying the 7 chakras. And then after the seventh one, you know, there's the eighth final abode, unity. Even Buddhism and Christianity have these symbols. I have put in this picture of a flower here because it has 8 petals. Again, this one also has 8. So these are the natural geometric divisions of 8 that we see in nature. All right, now I would just like to ask you guys, did any of it make sense, or was it all really confusing? If any one of you would like to just send a message in the chat. This work that I just shared with you about the octagon was from the book Arts of Islamic Lands, which was edited by Khalid Azam. All right. Now, what are we doing today is the breath of the compassionate. But these are some stages of getting to it. And this is actually the breath of the compassionate that you can see over here. The reason it's called breath of the compassionate, nafs, it's the feeling that we talk about. So I want to show you a video before I show you anything else so that it makes sense to you. If you can see, there's an expansion and contraction. Expansion, contraction. Can you see? The same shape is expanding and contracting. Now, this animation, I just made it last night because I felt like it explains breathing so well, because the lungs, they expand and they contract. See, it's going slower now, just so you can make sense of it. The shape contracts and expands. The number of corners are 16. That remains the same, right? But the shape is contracting and expanding. And that is why it is called the breath of the compassionate.
Someone said beautifully explained.
That's why now if you look at this shape, there is a star, which is an expanded star. And this over here is the contracted shape. So there are 2 shapes over here. Now, this is one of my most favorite shapes because of the philosophy behind it. I want to skip the really extra stuff and go to this. So in this blog over here, it's called the Garden Art Song Garden Sanctuary. They've given a beautiful explanation. They said the traditional Islamic cosmological worldview speaks of 18,000 universes that were created through the Nafs ar-Rahma, the breath of the compassionate. And elegant, so what they say is that the breath of the compassionate was the breath that brought the unseen world into the seen world. They say that an elegant geometric intertwining expresses this concept throughout Islamic art and architecture as the octagon, star or octagram, and the cross. And so there's an expansion and the contraction shown in this. In Hebrew, as in Arabic, breath and soul are intertwined. Compare nafs in Arabic to nefesh in Hebrew, ruh in Arabic to ruah in Hebrew, and nasama and in Arabic to nishama in Hebrew. All are expressions both of breath with the interference of wind and breeze and soul. So, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran also says, وَنَفَخْتَهُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي, that I breathed my spirit into you. So there's a very close connection of breath with the soul. And that's why meditation needs for us to concentrate so much on our breath. And so Nafs ar-Rahma is generally translated as the breath of the compassionate. Its meaning is far more informative than just compassionate or even merciful. The deeper meaning comparable to Rahman and Rahamim in Hebrew is reflected by the 3-letter root word, which is Raham. And this Raham in Arabic and Hebrew goes back to the word womb. Womb is the place of growth, nourishment, love. And I really like this word over here. If you follow my cursor, it says ferociously protective source of being. Ferociously protected source of being. That's the beauty of the womb. The womb, you know, if the mother goes hungry, first the baby gets the food, which is all stored up in the mother's body. The baby is still protected. So that is where Allah's Rahmaniya, Rahimiya, his Raham is coming. There's so much to talk about that, but let's get back to our geometry. Ibn al-Arabi looks at God's creativity as an analog for human speech, just as we create words and sentences in the substratum of breath. So God creates the universe by articulating words in the breath of the all-merciful Nafs ar-Rahman, which is the deployment of existence. Indeed, existence itself is synonymous with mercy. And over here, the article says, I'm reminded of the Tibetan Buddhist practice of Tonglen, where one works to breathe in suffering and breathe out compassion. Breathe in suffering, breathe out compassion. To think of existence as synonymous with compassion offers a wonderful, if sometimes distant, ideal. The breath of the compassionate pattern expands into khatams, then compresses back into a cross or X form as each point of the khatam folds. So alhamdulillah, I think that this was enough explanation. Don't want to make it too heavy. According to Keith Critchlow's Islam's concentration on geometric patterns, he draws attention away from the representational world. He says that the geometric patterns that are used in Islamic art, it takes us away from the representational world, meaning the manifested world, the dense world, the outer material world, to that world of pure forms. And pure forms is another word for archetypes. Poised tensions and dynamic equilibrium, giving structural insight into the workings of the inner self and their reflection in the universe. So, okay, thank you. I'm just reading the chat right now. Amazing. I think I'm going to picture this pattern and your animation every time I concentrate on my breathing. Thank you. Yes, alhamdulillah. Thank you, Shireen. I was actually feeling like maybe I'm just talking to myself and not making sense, because I went through at least 5-6 books. I wanted to put everything about the breath of the compassionate together and share with you all, not realizing that I was maybe getting over ambitious for the youngsters that we have with us. And I don't want to put anybody off by how heavy this can become. Now, the reason breath of the compassionate can become so interesting is because not only does Rumi talk about the importance of opposites in this world, but the whole idea of yin and yang is all about expansion and contraction. Now, I have done this very rough scribbling, so just follow my cursor. Yin is also representational of expansion, which is also representational of bast. Bast is expansion in Arabic, and it also denotes Allah's name Basit. So when there is expansion, it's Allah's name Basit in action, which is connected to his Jamal and connected to the female energy, the feminine divine energy. Yang is contraction, which is qabz in Arabic, which is showing Allah's name Qabiz in action, which is also connected to his quality of Jalal, which is the masculine divine energy. So now when we look at feminine Jamal is connected to Batin, which is hidden, which is esoteric, which is all what we're doing right now. Esoteric is archetype, going for the archetype and not the symbol outside. Symbols are the posts. They're the signposts that take us to the archetypes. Symbols take us to the archetypes, meaning outer takes us to the inner world, to put it simply. So Batin is hidden, Batin is inner, Batin is esoteric. Batin is also a quality of Allah's, a group of Allah's quality of names, which comes under Lutf. And masculine is his Jalal, which is Zahir, which is outside, exterior, manifested, exoteric, and Keher. So now with so many opposites, the whole world, if you look around, is only but about opposites, like our states of the soul. And now the states of the soul are sometimes connected to the divine, sometimes disconnected. Sometimes we find ourselves crying away in our prayers, and sometimes we don't even want to do the whole salah. We want to like rush through it. Sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, sometimes we're in a state of melancholy, and sometimes we are ecstatic. And these are the states of the soul, just like day and night. So yin, the female Jamal, is the darkness, the hidden, the veiled. That's why it's connected to the moon in some traditions. Yang is connected to the daytime, the sun. So there are all these parables and analogies in nature that we see all around us. And see, now when we work with this pattern of the breath of the compassionate, and we will think about contraction and expansion, we will realize that in fact, this symbol of breath of the compassionate is a part of our moment-to-moment journey in life. We are not only just breathing in and out, expansion and contraction of the lungs is happening, but that we're surrounded by these opposites of bust and qabs, states of the soul, all the time, right? The heart has an ECG, which is always up and down. So in that sense, this symbol is actually part and parcel of our existence and journey to God. Now I'm just reading the chat. Everything in existence is created in pairs, but they all lead us back to the one, everything in dualities. Yes, the journey is from multiplicity to unity, from duality to oneness. And once we start seeing the multiplicity of all the symbols, but we see one source behind it, then we start to emulate that primordial man, right? Pre-distracted man. So when we do mindfulness, when we do meditation, it is all our yearning to go and unite with the one source, because distraction creates multiplicity and silence creates oneness. So now there is a little discussion here on yin and yang. I don't want to go into this. We've already taken a lot of time. And so now this is it. And we shall now start our work. So if you guys can just give me a tiny feedback of how did it go, and you know, would you feel ready for the, I'm just trying to sort out my screen. Is there any questions that you guys want to ask? Anything that you have in mind that you want to talk about before we start the work? Okay. All right, so we're ready. Alhamdulillah, thank you. You guys are really kind and very, very encouraging. I'm just going to now move the screen to, so everybody now look for the study session screen, which has the compass and the masking tape. You can see the ruler. So we will start our work here. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. You all can use your pencils. I am using a pen so that we have clear view of what I'm drawing. Since I'll be drawing, I will be looking at the chat, but if anyone would like to, you know, keep a check on the chat or something, then I'll be very grateful. So we are using an A3 sheet. We have some newcomers, so I'm just gonna revise the setup. We have an A3 sheet and we've put it horizontally. I'm placing the ruler in the center of the page, and I'm going to draw a line over here in the center of the page horizontally. So this should be visible. Now the compass. So open your compass to approximately I'm using a pen. You guys please use a pencil. Pencil is always better for accuracy. We don't want the radii of the radius of our work to change throughout until and unless I mention it. I'm going for 10 centimeters here. All right. So I have drawn this again. This is a large circle. The reason we have made a large circle is because we are going to create our pattern within this circle. It will not be kind of moving much out of this. So now we have 2 points, one over here and one over here. These are our 2 points of intersection, right? One over here and one over here. So we'll start with this point over here and carefully put our compass. And we are going to draw an arch. So starting from here, I've drawn an arch all the way till here. Now we will place our compass on this side. We do not want our radius to change at all. Okay, so I'm going to draw another, oops, see, I made a mistake, sorry. I will draw it again. Wrong there. I'm going to draw this again really fast. Okay. So we want to draw our circle. Yep, got it. Okay, so we want a good arch. So far, so good. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to change the radius. All right. So everybody with me? Okay. So now what we want to do is that this is also something that you should learn. The next process is actually called, it's just a second, bisecting the circle. So what we're going to do is that we are going to, because I don't want to change my radius and I have another compass, I am just going to use another compass and show you. We are going to use these 2 points over here. Can anyone write on the chat is everything is okay, because I can't hear anyone and I don't have any.
Hello?
Fatima, I muted.
Okay. Is it okay now? Can you guys hear me now? Okay. No sound. Shireen, can you hear me now? Okay. Okay, guys, I'm so sorry about that. We are going to take a new radius and we're using this point over here. What we need to do now is that the new radius needs to be a little bit more than this part over here. So approximately with the with your eye approximation, this distance over here, you need to have a little more than the half. So I am drawing a little bit more than the half. Okay, so this is approximately the midpoint, and this line is beyond that half, and that's how much radius we're taking. It's an approximate radius more than the half. All right, and now we move to the other point and create a arch over here that will create a cross, and we want to do the same thing above. So maybe my my thing needs to zoom out a little bit. Just a second. All right, so we're okay. This can work. Now over here again, we're going to use this point, and you can't see. Okay, we're going to use this point, and it's the same radius as below, and we are going to try and bisect it. Right? Is everyone clear with these steps so far, or should I repeat it, or should I explain? Okay, Shireen has got it. Clear. Okay, Shiza. Thank you, Shiza. Awesome. All right. Now we need a long ruler. Okay, and we need to align 3 points. Okay, so I'm just going to use a red pen here to show this line. We have a point here, we have a point here, and then we have a point down below, which we did earlier, which you guys have on your sheets of paper, but I can't move my paper right now. So I'm just going to draw this line. And as I had mentioned last week, the more points we have aligned, the better it is for our drawing for accuracy. Okay, so I'm just gonna try to zoom out a little.
Zakia Siddha says, I'm so sorry we had connection issues and it got cut. Could you go back 2 steps?
So I hope now you all can see, right, the whole picture. Okay, almost. Okay, can I go back 2 steps? Okay, so no problem. We all have connection issues, especially in the heat over here. So we used a new radius. This was a radius which was more than the approximate half of this area. If you look at this distance, go for an approximate radius which is more than the half, anything more than the half, right? And you draw an arch over here from this point, and then you go back over here to this point with the same radius and create another arch, right, over here, if you can see. So this is the arch we did from this point over here. So we got across here and we did the same thing here. Okay, same radius, marked an arch over here, and then with this point we marked another arch over here. So we got intersecting points over here, top, bottom, and we had a point in the center. We aligned all the 3 points. Okay, and we aligned all the 3 points and we drew a red line here in the center. Now what we're going to do is that we're going to go back to our original radius, which was this one, right? Original radius. We're going back to our original radius. And we are going to put it over here, this point where the red line is intersecting with the circle. Okay? And now we are going to draw a large arch or a semicircle. Okay? This red line is bisecting the circle into 2 equal halves, semicircles. And we drew this one. Now we're going to go back up again. Over here, we have this new point, and we are going to create large arch over here as well. And what we want is that we want an intersection here. So let's make this arch really extended, right? So we want these 4 corners here very clear, and we need to use them. So how is everybody doing so far? If everybody is with me, then we move forward. Okay, now let's take our rulers and join these points. These 4 points. We want to make a square. This is how we can draw an exact square without using a protractor. A good practice is to take your time to align the points, always. Sometimes when I'm teaching, I'm nervous and I'm rushing, so I don't, but you guys please make sure that you take your time to align your points. So we have our square now, and now we're going to draw more lines inside. So I'm going to use a red pen to show you the points we're using. Use these points to draw a new line. Okay, here we go. And we are going to use these 2 points over here to make more lines. Okay. We have something going on in the chat. How do I open up your screen? I mean, Zoom, it has, I see everyone's screen, so not able to see that. You know, when you go on the gallery view, you'll see loads of screens, and then tap on the one you want to see. So that'll be mine, and you can pin it. There's an option to pin it. And if anyone else in our participants can help Praveen out, I'd be so grateful. Okay. And if it's not working out, please stop us. Right. Now we're going to draw. So we've drawn 2 vertical lines. Now we want to draw 2 horizontal lines. Okay. So we're going to use these 2 points over here. Okay. And I always say don't blotch the intersecting points because it creates inaccuracy. That's why I create circles around the intersecting points. So we have 1 line here. Now we're going to draw 1 more over here. Okay. Yeah. So we have our grid, and you can see we have 4 by 4, right? We created a 4 by 4 tile. Now we want to use our compass again. So no, first we have to use our ruler. Sorry, we have to keep to our rulers right now. What we're going to do now is that we're going to go diagonal. So I'm going to go with a lighter color, an orange color. We don't want too much interference into our work. We are going to start going diagonal, right? So this point to this point over here.
I'm sorry, but Qureshi Beg is asking 4 squares across 4 squares down. What do you mean by 4?
And then this point to this point. The more points we align, the more accurate our drawing is going to be, right? So we've gone in one direction. And if everybody's with me, then we'll start going in the other direction. Yeah. So are we clear about the 4x4 squared by 4 squared? That's what I meant. Just trying to explain how we created a square, and we created so much, we've created squares which are so accurate without using measurements of a ruler or a protractor or measuring the angles. That's the kind of work circles can help us do. Inshallah, next week we'll talk a little bit more about the symbol of circle. Inshallah. So now I'm going in the other direction. If you all can follow, I'm using these 2 points, aligning them properly. Try to hold your ruler from the center, press it down really hard because it can move while we move along and create inaccuracies. Align your points as much as possible. Okay. So we have this grid now, and now we can actually to be able to get our work going further, we need to make more lines. And those lines are again going to be vertical and horizontal lines. So now we are aligning the center crosses where the points are intersecting. We are aligning these points and we are drawing the line. Also, many different geometers will come up with drawing the same drawings in a slightly different way. A lot of them will work out a different way to give the same design. And what is important is that when you have a mentor or a teacher, that teacher will tell you that the end result was actually identical or not. Because sometimes there will be variations because of the difference in the way the same shape is being sought after. And so it's really important that we have somebody guiding us as to whether our shapes are actually exactly what we want or not, because sometimes they kind of look the same, but they're distorted slightly. Okay, so now we're drawing these lines over here. We are aligning these points over here. Okay, so we are aligning the crosses horizontally.
Fatima, how many vertical lines do you have? Fatima? Can you hear me?
I don't know if I've mentioned it probably before, but I personally love construction lines in my work. I like to leave them when I create my work because, again, like we had said, it's all about going deeper within, seeing what lies beyond. So I personally really like all the construction lines. But once you have this grid, and when you want to create your final drawing, your final pattern, you can do it on a tracing sheet and then get rid of all the construction work. So once we get the hang of how to get the construction work going, if we want to present the construction lines in our final work, then we need to be neater with our work. Okay, now, so what is our next radius going to be? If you can see the red squares, all right, within this red square, now we have 8 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So we have now got 8 points within this red square. And now we are going to use one of these lines, the vertical or the horizontal, not the diagonal line. We're going to use either the vertical or the horizontal line to get a radius for a circle to be drawn within these red squares. Now, a good way to get a good radius is to, before drawing your circle, check it on all 4 sides. Sometimes in our drawing, there will be inaccuracy. And, you know, sometimes you might see that it's not identical on all 4 sides. So you go for a mean radius because we're beginners, right? We're making mistakes, our drawings are not accurate. So go for a mean radius, go for an average radius that would kind of work, even if it is not working exactly. So now we want to create circles inside all the red squares. Okay, so let's start here and check it. Is the radius okay? All right, it's approximately all right. So I'm going to start drawing my circle. So as you can see, I adjusted my radius over here. Over here, I've adjusted my radius a little bit. So you can adjust it a little bit. With markers, again, the work gets even more inaccurate. The pencil work, and the finer your compass, pencil, nib is, lead is, the better. So we are going to draw circles inside all of these. Use both your hands. It can get tricky. If your center moves, remember you're not grounded. And so the circle gets distorted. Oops. Okay. Now, if you have a pencil, you just erase it and go back to work. But with me, I'm using a marker, so that's going to be a mistake here. And now I can actually tell you a story while I'm, not a story, but another phenomena while we're making these circles. I know some of you might be finding this very meditative. You know, if anybody of you have read The Architect's Apprentice by Alif Shafak, they would actually make a mistake when they would build the mosques in Turkey or the palaces. The Sinan architect was the head architect, because they would say that perfection only lies with Allah. So they would actually create a mistake, and they would say, well, perfection only lies with Allah. So even in our school sessions, whenever we would do our work and we would end up making a mistake like this that I just did, we would say, well, all perfection lies with Allah. And well, a mistake in our work shows our imperfection. And also, there's I think a very local jargon for it. I don't know if it's Urdu or Saraiki, or we call it the Nazar Batu. It's really interesting. We call it Nazar Batu because I don't know if you've noticed in some cultures, they'd put a black mark around the baby's forehead or the ears or something, because they'd say that the black mark will protect the baby from bad, evil eye, people who might be envious, etc. So they would put a black mark, and that's Nazar Batu, and that's what they would call making a mistake while working. Yes, I don't think I can hear you guys on the audio, reason being that my speakers are both on mute, because even if one of them is on, I start getting an echo. So I didn't hear you. 1, 2, 3, 4. I am super bad with counting, so I'm still wondering what was the number 9. Okay. Yep. Okay, I got it. Thank you so much, Shireen. Really, really means a lot. And I really hope, I don't know how we had that glitch with the signing in stuff. I'll check that. I was so sure everything was sorted. Okay, so now we're going to, let me know whoever, how far have you guys gone ahead with your circles? Done? Everyone is done? Shiza is done. So let's see who else. Ibrahim is done. All done. Shireen is done. Thank you, Kuresha. Yes, because because our beauty lies in our imperfections, definitely. The pressure of being perfect is only worthy of God. We can never ever take that burden. We'd collapse. And a lot of us do, because we want to be perfect. Okay, now I'm going to use a dark blue pen, and I'm going to now start working with our okay, so the shape that we're drawing today, the breath of the compassionate, the 8-pointed star, it's called a khatam. All right, it's called a khatam star, because there are many other 8-pointed stars as well. The one we're working with and creating today for the breath of compassionate is called the khatam star. So now we are starting our work with the khatam star, and we're going to take this point over here and this point over here, and we're going to join it. And once we're done with the first few steps, then everybody will get the rhythm of it and you'll understand what I'm doing. So what happens is that right now what I'll show you is that I am simply creating the 8-pointed star within just this one circle. Right now I'm just focusing on this one square. Okay, so let's just focus on this one square. So I'm going to use these points over here to create a dynamic square, dynamic square, as you all remember, is the square that is standing on its point. That means it's in motion, like a top in motion, right? So we have a square over here, which is a dynamic square, and we've used these 4 points. Now we are going to use 4 more points to create the static square within this circle. We're going to use 1, 2, 3, and 4. These 4 points. All right. I'm going to use these 4 points to create the static square. So the static and the dynamic come together to create the Khatam star. Now, this is how we create a Khatam star within one circle. We've already done this in our previous class. But what happens when we have so many? We can start aligning a lot of points and reduce the number of lines we have to do by aligning our ruler with more than one circle. Now, if you notice, I am going to use this pointer and show you how my ruler is now aligning over here, 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 and here, all across. If my drawing is accurate, then all of my points should align, right? And so I can just go across and make this. And for beginners, it can get confusing, but as we move along, we'll see how much this becomes a very handy way of doing our work. So what I would suggest is that for those of you who can, you can align your points all across the drawing and start making longer lines that align. But for those who are finding it confusing, you can just go 1 square at a time using 8 points on your star, which I will just show you. And you can just do 1 square at a time. So finding small circles is more difficult. So that's why I've used a red boundary, right? So each circle is within 1 square. Then Shireen, please show again how to draw the second square within the circle. Okay, second square. Let me use a different color. So if you see here, we have point 1. This is point 2, point 3, point 4, point 5, point 6, point 7, point 8. These are the 8 points where the orange lines are intersecting with our small circles, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. Now, to create the static square, we will go with the horizontal points across each other. So these points will give you, I'm just coloring it because I want you to see it very clearly. These are the 4 points to create the static square. Okay, please don't color in your points like this. I'm just doing it to show you guys so it's clear. So you go like this. You have your square. Is this clear now? Okay. So we got the static square. Now we can get the dynamic square. Right? Okay. Now, how is everybody feeling so far? Okay, if everybody's clear, then should I show you the faster way of drawing these lines? So, as I mentioned, we can align these lines. So now you can see your star, and you know you will have these lines going all the way down. You have these stars forming within all the circles. So a lot of these lines are going to align. So for example, the diagonal lines are aligning very easily. So you have this point which is going across all the circles, right? So we can just go on doing our diagonal lines first. Is everyone able to align their points? Are they understanding which points I'm connecting? No? Okay. So if you see your circles over here, these 4 points, right? These are the 4 points of the dynamic square, all right? Again, if you look at this circle over here, you have these 4 points of your dynamic square, right? Okay, let's move ahead over here. Again, these are the 4 points of your dynamic square. Is the picture getting clear now? Are you able to see how you have these points that create a dynamic square? See? Now you have a dynamic square. So in all the circles, there are diagonal points that are forming the dynamic square. And what we're doing is that instead of going one by one, which is something most of you can already do because I've already shown it, whoever would like to proceed with each circle on its own can do that. But those of you who can use a more advanced way of doing the same drawing, you can start drawing the diagonal lines by aligning all of the circles. So, Shireen, it's okay. Yeah, colors really help, especially the first time. I'm sure your drawing must have a lot of pencil marks. What you can do is that you can use color pencils to mark circles. So right now, if you are drawing these diagonal lines, you can use a blue pencil color and start drawing all the little circles that need to align, right? And then you can start joining those lines and they'll pop out. And that will not affect your work on the tracing paper because the final star will be on the tracing paper. So if you want to use any colors on your drawing, you're more than welcome to make sense of it. So this is what we're doing. We're using all the diagonal points and we are aligning them to draw our diagonal lines. All right. For those of you who can follow, may do it. And for those who can't, it's totally fine. Just go one circle at a time, right? The reason I am not doing one circle at a time is that number one, we're short of time. I mean, I started late. I don't mind staying late, but I don't want everyone else because people have schedules. So what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to at least get to a point with the drawing that, you know, one can follow it in the video slowly and then you can complete your work. Right? So I'm going with all the points which are diagonal right now. If you guys are able to follow, let me know. If most of you can't, then I won't do this. I would like to know if at least some of you can follow what I'm doing. The rest of you who can, just please do one circle at a time, make your 8 points, and do your 8-pointed star. Okay, all right, thank you for the feedback. And right, so I've gone one way, now I'm going another way. You can use a different color if you want, even in your drawing. Everybody along their way in their journey through geometry come up with their own ways of creating their own drawings. Like when I do my drawings, I use a lot of colors and I use a lot of tracing paper because it makes my work easier to follow later on. So when I open my notes now, I can easily follow the steps that happen during the work. Right, so we've done our diagonal lines, and now we want to create our static squares within the circles. For that, we have to follow. Let's take one circle at a time. If you look at this circle, and I'll use a different color. To create the static squares, we need 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the points that we will be using in all the circles, right? However, what we need to be careful now with is that we can't just draw the whole straight line. Why? I will just show you why. Because just a second. Just hold on. All right. So we cannot make straight lines. We need to leave this area, this star-shaped area, we need to keep it empty. We can't draw the lines in this area, in all of them, right? So this is just so you can see the shape popping out. Don't need to color it. Just need to see that we cannot be drawing our lines within this area. So now when I'm going to draw my line and I'm joining my points, it has to be within the small circles. I cannot draw it over here. Small circle, right? I cannot be drawing in these areas. I need to leave these out. Same over here. If you notice, this is this area. Don't draw your lines over here, all right? Don't draw your lines over here. So leave these areas empty, which are between the circles. So now we need to join which lines? These 2 points, then these 2 points within the small circle, right? Okay, let me just check the chat. Okay, amazing. All right. So now we need to draw these points within the circles, within the circle, within the circle. Okay, again. I'm aligning my points, watching them properly before I start drawing, and within the circle, within the circle, within the circle. Again, line your points very carefully within the circle, within the circle. So we can't leave the small circles now. We have to draw the lines within the small circles. Align your points. All right, so we're done with our vertical lines. And now we will be going across the same circles on the same points, but with our horizontal lines. Again, it has to stay within the circle. Within the circle, right? Okay, so now, how is everybody doing? Okay, I'm just gonna check the chat. Yes, you know, they don't always align in the first go. Yes, I think notes you'll have to take later. I was very beautifully reminded about not wasting paper last time. In fact, one of our teachers was so particular that when we would do this work, she would save even the tiniest scraps of paper, and we learned it, and then somehow, you know, on our own we forgot. But when it doesn't align in the first time, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that happens. It's a little tricky. It takes practice. So I was talking about the paper, and then when we were using pigments of paint, my teacher said that if you waste your pigment, her teacher would tell her that you'll need to pick up your pigment with your eyelashes, because that's going to be your punishment. So do not waste. You have to be very careful about that. So I'm just tearing out a piece of paper which fits my design, and I'm going to secure it in place with the masking tape. So what you have drawn now is the grid that goes under the pattern. And metaphysically, we can say that is the archetypal representation of the symbolic breath of the compassion. I can get very nerdy with these words sometimes, so pardon me. Okay. Now I'm not maybe I won't be able to do all of it. I will just show a little bit. But the idea is that I would like to at least show a little bit of how the final pattern is going to be. So now with a thicker black marker, I'm drawing just the outer portions of the star. Just watch me as I'm doing this. Right now, just watch. Okay. I did this with you guys when we did the really big star, but it gets confusing when there's so many. And because a lot of us don't have so much practice. So now I had also said that when we're working on the tracing sheet with a marker, try to blow on your work, because it can get splatter all over the place if we move the ruler on top of wet ink. And of course, I can just keep going sideways as well, you know, but there'll be extensive work. Some of you may want to go, so I just want to show a little bit first. if I could just show you this portion, like completing it. So if you all notice, we have our expanded Khatam star here and the cross here, which is the contracted one. And I'm just going to color it in quickly. How is everybody doing? It's so quiet. I'm wondering if everybody's there with me. Okay, alhamdulillah. You can see the star. Shireen, can you see the pink now that I've colored it? That's the Khatam star. We call it the Khatam star.
I can see the star.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Quresha. Right? So I would like to say hello to you all, and you guys can complete this later, perhaps, because we are past our time today. Thank you, Mariam. Thank you, Parveen. Thank you, Tanya. I'm gonna turn on your voices now, if I can. Could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Or was I muted all this time?
No, you haven't been muted.
Okay, great. Can you guys, I'm gonna stop recording now. Thank you. And I'm gonna ask if any of you would like to come on screen.